Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another podcast of the Elder Geeks, where good games never get old, but we sure do. My name is Randy, and with me this week I have Elder Geek Phil back with me.
Hello! I'm back.
And Elder Geek Ryan.
Why, hello there.
Who has continued on with his monster hunting adventures, and we'll get to those in a little bit. Phil, who went first last week? Oh, I should probably tell how the show works for newcomers.
Sure.
The way the show works is we go through three segments. First segment is games that we are playing with our families or the games that our families themselves are playing, and we talk about those. And then we take a quick break. We come back. We talk about games that we are playing by ourselves. And then in a third and final segment, we talk about just sort of off the topic kind of things. Ryan, I think last time I went first, and then before that was Phil. So, Ryan, you're going to go first this time. Tell us about games that you are playing with your family, as you are a father to be very soon.
I sure am. So we're still just the two. So while we're doing that, we're trying to catch up on some other games. You know, it's interesting actually. I have a plan, and maybe this will be a connecting thread throughout many episodes. But my wife never really played a ton of video games. She played in her childhood, but then through our relationship, she has played a lot more than she ever did. To that end, she is terrible at 3D games. I don't know if this is something that you guys have experienced. Yeah,
no, 3D games are kind of tough to get into, you know.
Yeah, well, like just from a purely controls standpoint, she had a very hard time. I remember, some time ago we tried to play Portal because she liked the theme of the game, but I tried to get her to play, and it was on the Xbox 360 at the time, and she inevitably ended up staring at the floor no matter what I did to try to help her.
Or the stereotypical player of just walking in the corner kind of thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had a theory, and I'm finally starting to get to test this theory of how I learned to play 3D games when I was a kid was because I was there as they came to be, right? We're all roughly the same age without making anybody say numbers here. We're all trying to have fun.
I have no shame in my age.
Yeah, well, it's what it is. But, I remember the time when it went from Super Nintendo to N64, and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm playing Mario 64, and I'm, running around in 3D. It's like it's real. But she never experienced that because she never really was playing continuously through those times. And I think that's really what led me to learn how to play 3D platformers.
Sure.
So in an effort to try to recapture that, and because last year I picked up the Super Nintendo Classic, I've started building a roster of games that Danielle and I are going to get through so that we can teach her, I guess, how to play 3D platformers. I'm a learner. I'm going to learn her good. So the first game that I wanted to try, and this one's really just because it's on the Classic, the SNES Classic that is, and it's one of my absolute favorites, was Secret of Mana.
Yeah, great game.
So classic. Now this one's, I guess it's technically like an isometric game. I don't really know what you'd classify.
Just like a top head. It's just an overhead.
You're right, but you kind of have the side profile. It's all sprites, obviously. But just a very old school but really classic RPG style game. It is sort of interesting, looking back at games like this. Your rose-colored glasses come off a bit after you start to get into it, because I, of course, remember it being and it still is, beautifully made game.
Yeah.
Wonderful soundtrack. Some pretty good mechanics as far as, I always thought the item wheel was really good. I really liked the way that they made combat work. But I remember playing it cooperatively with one of my friends when I was a kid. But you kind of forget that the game doesn't start like that. So
yeah, you have to earn your partners.
You have to earn your partner, which is such an interesting mechanic from a purely philosophical standpoint. But from the standpoint of sitting on your couch with your wife who's asking you when she's going to get to play, a little less good.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird choice that that game is billed as a 3-player game, and you don't get all 3 players until hours deep into it.
Seriously deep into it too, especially if, like I haven't, I loved the game when I was younger, but I haven't played Secret of Mana in, at least a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just they just re-released it on Steam too.
Yeah,
that's the new one. Yeah,
and it got
the 3D
thrashed.
one.
Really, did it?
Yeah, nobody liked it. Yeah, it got.
Oh, that's a shame.
And it was a 3D remake too, so it wasn't just like they upped to the sprite count or anything like that. It was like a total redo, and people really did not like it.
Yeah. So yeah, we admittedly haven't gotten super far. I'm also trying not to use walkthroughs. I'm just trying to like go from memory and then just kind of experience the game, because that's really a lot of what my wife likes about playing games with me, is that she likes the story almost more than the mechanics a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it is kind of it's a compelling story once you get into it, but like I said, like we've already touched on, it's a slow burn for sure.
Did you find the girl yet, the second player?
Yeah, that was right where we stopped, because it just took quite a while, but I can't remember what her name is in the stock name is for her character, the little fairy girl. Yeah,
so that game, they do have like real names, but they never tell you them. I think like I don't even know if they tell you like in the manual. It might be like a Japanese thing, so they don't have like a default name. Yeah.
It's not like a Final Fantasy VI thing where it gives you the option to change.
No, they do have real names, but I can't think of what they are.
Yeah, nor can I. So anyway, we're going to get to more of that, I think, in the future, especially now that I think I mentioned at the end of the last episode that we have purchased a house, and now I have my actual TV and entertainment center set up again.
Congrats.
So now we have a place to play. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that was it. That and of course Pokemon Go. I actually got my wife to reinstall Pokemon Go on her phone recently. Now that they've introduced trading, it was a very exciting day in the household.
Oh, cool!
Excellent.
You made me think about when you were talking about mechanics of like co-op mechanics, about how she couldn't start playing right away. And there's been a couple of games recently that bothered me like that. I remember I bought my brother a copy of Dark Souls 3. And I knew it was going to be hard for him, but you can't play cooperatively until you beat the first boss in the game. And
so I guess it never happened for him.
It never happened for him. And I recorded myself beating the boss for him and sent him a video of it, and I sent him like walkthrough videos, and he just never ever got past it. And I have to admit, like I probably beat that game like 4 times now. And
wow. 3?
Yeah, I like that one.
I thought you kind of like bailed after the second one. I thought you weren't too big on the second. I thought you actually weren't too big on the original and the second one.
I wasn't big on the original. I liked the second one a lot more than I liked the first one, and I know that's not a popular opinion, but whatever. Yeah. And then I really liked the third one. But I mean, this is totally going to give me a lot of flack. I like those games a lot. I just can't stand a lot of the online stuff of it. I don't like the invasion system in the game.
Really?
I really don't.
Huh.
I mean, I think if you like that kind of thing, it's really neat, but it's just not something for me. Anyway, so I tried to play co-op with him with that, and he never got past the first boss, so we never got to play co-op. And there was another game, Splinter Cell Conviction, where again you have to beat like the first level or 2 before you can play cooperatively, and he was just like, nope, I can't do this. And I was like, God damn, I really want to do this, but I can't.
I think it kind of makes sense with those games, since they're pretty deep, and you have to at least, that's kind of like your tutorial, right? It's like
yes,
if you
can handle this, those are your tutorials.
You can handle this stage, you can do it. But with Secret of Mana, it's more like I don't know, it's like a Zelda game. You're in there, you just hit attack, and there's nothing really. I mean, it's deep and there's things to learn, but as far as like understanding how it works, it's nothing too wild, you know?
Right. I think for that, it's more a story issue, right?
Right.
Like, it wouldn't make sense in the context of the story of Secret of Mana, like to just be like, well, here's 2 dudes instead of 1. It really does depend on, oh, you found this other person and now they are an additional character.
Right.
I always think of like Halo sort of did it right when it comes to that sort of divergent system, where, in Halo 1 they did the thing where it was just like, oh, there's just 2 Master Chiefs now. But then in Halo 3 they were like, well, you have Master Chief and then you have the Arbiter. So when you play 2-player, one of you is each of them, which makes sense for both a plot standpoint and as just like a mechanics game standpoint.
Yeah. What did they do in 2? I had 2, but I only played it single player, where you're the first few missions you're chief, and then like halfway through the game you're arbiter, right?
Yeah.
So how did it handle that?
I think they did. Maybe it was a hybrid, because like then towards the end, aren't both chief and the arbiter in part of the end of the game? But I can't remember.
I don't recall. I actually didn't finish the game.
I didn't go back to 2 as much as I have gone back to 3.
Okay.
I was very solidly in the Halo camp for a long time, but I only just recently got an Xbox One, and I haven't picked up the Master Chief Collection, which is like, that's how people have replayed those. No, yeah, well, I heard that there was a lot of bugs at launch.
Yeah, bugs at launch for like a 4-year-old game, and I think I heard that they may have just put out a patch. My nephew's like super into it. He talks about Master Chief Collection all the time, just how it's like a disaster. But I would double check that one before you pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like burning a hole in my pocket to get Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
I would play Reach before I'd play any of them. Reach was my classic. That was my favorite.
But it's still awesome that you guys are having some couch time, you know? Playing on a SNES really Classic is way better than paying for cable. No,
it's great. Yeah, and I don't really have any desire to get cable again. It's now I actually just ran Ethernet cable. We're getting dangerously close to off-topic territory. I just ran some Ethernet cable from my main box up through the floor into my entertainment center so that everything could be hardwired and getting full internet speed. So I have the Xbox One, the Roku, the Switch, all connected hardline to the Ethernet, and then the SNES Classic hanging out there as well. Yeah, it's good. It's a good setup. I'm actually really happy with it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, you're right. That is a little bit off topic. So let's pass the puck over.
Let's move on.
Let's go to Phil. Phil, what's your family playing?
So I wanted to try a little something different and try to get the girls to play a game that they wouldn't normally play, and tonight it backfired. So
what?
So it's going to be really short, actually. So I've been eyeing up Wild Arms, or God, I always say Wild Arms. It's Wild Guns. There's an RPG series, Wild Arms.
Oh. Yeah, when you told me about the game Wild Guns, I thought to myself, is that part of the Wild Arms series? So that answers my question. It's not part of the Wild Arms series.
It is not. No, yeah, and I like always say that. It's funny. Yeah, so it's Wild Guns Reloaded for the Switch, but it came out it came out on Switch in April of this year, but it came out on PlayStation and PC, I believe, last year. But it's a remake of an old Super Nintendo game from s01e04. I think it came out in '95 for the SNES. So what they did was, I guess the premise of the game is have you guys ever played the game Cabal? It's an older arcade game and a NES game.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think
I don't
of a
think
game.
I have.
The fact that you told me about Wild Guns being on SNES, I feel like, how did I miss that?
Well, a lot of people missed it. So I'm trying to think of how to just what the comparative would describe. So it's like a shooting game, but it's your character. You're just behind your character. They run back and forth on the screen, but they're aiming ahead of them. So you're controlling like a reticle around to shoot everything. Okay. So almost kind of like a light gun-ish type of game without the light gun. And you can move your character around.
How did I miss this? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I feel like I looked up a picture of this. I don't know how I missed this back in the 90s.
I mean, it looks awesome, right?
It totally does. It looks really cool. It's got some great
Do I need to look this up right now? I'm going to look this up right now.
It looks like Sunset Riders, but more of a shooter, like not a side-scrolling shooter, but more of a third-person shooter, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. So it's just like each stage is a still screen, basically, just like a static, stage, but bad guys are popping in and out, that kind of thing. And you can jump, you can roll for cover while you're firing, stuff like that. So they released this game on HD platforms, and it's basically it's like a enhanced port of the Super Nintendo game. I never played it back in the day. Always wanted to play it. Today, to buy the game itself, it's about $300 loose. It's crazy.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
So I've always wanted to play it. This version dropped to like $20, the physical one. It might be actually just $20 on the eShop, but dropped to $20. I picked it up at GameStop like a week ago. And what it is it's basically the exact same game, but I think they may have added like a stage or some bosses. They slightly enhanced some things. Like I compared it. I watched like a YouTube video of the Super Nintendo one today just to kind of get an idea of like what's changed. like there's like slight lighting effects. There's like a little more animation, but it looks. I mean, if you're not looking at it's like you just think you're playing the Super Nintendo game, but it's like but it's like a super enhanced Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
And it actually works pretty well in HD because you have the widescreen, and on the Super Nintendo, you're kind of, the screen is a little more like cut off because you have to walk back and forth to kind of scroll it a little bit.
Right. You were stuck in that 4:3 ratio.
Right, exactly. Whereas on the Switch, you basically see the whole stage right there, which I think is kind of like a good like gameplay advantage. But anyway, one of the things, it's always been 2-player, but one of the things they did for this HD version is that it's for 4 players. So they added 2 new characters to the game.
Huh.
And I thought, well, maybe the girls will want to play this. And it was a disaster. They hated it, and they don't ever want to play it again. And they told me it was dumb. So
all right, well,
that is fantastic. Best review ever.
There you have it.
So that was that. I was like, girls, why don't you try this new game with me? I was like, I really want to try, because I played it. I sat on it for a week. I was actually hoping to play it with my nephews, and so I was saving it. I didn't want to play it, and then it just kind of didn't happen. And then last night, I just, it was a long weekend. I wanted to kill some time. Didn't feel like doing any work, so I thought, all right, I'm gonna play some Wild Guns, and I enjoyed it. And then I thought, well, maybe the girls will like playing it since it's 3-player. One of the new characters is this little dog. They love dogs, so I thought, but he was actually how I got them to play it, was the dog, because I said, let's play this game, and I showed them the picture. They were like, no, I don't want to play that. And I said, you can be a little dog. And then they were both like, oh, yeah, right. we gotta be the dog. We gotta be the dog. So they were both the dog. But yeah, when they died instantly, I will say, they didn't know what they were doing. They were completely just like, what is going on? What is going on? And I kind of thought that way myself last night. There was a weird moment, and I'm used to it now. There's a weird moment, you're holding a modern day controller, and you just think the game controls the way maybe a modern game would. So you kind of have to like step back a little bit, because it's like, I know I'm playing a Super Nintendo game, but it's the first time I ever played this game. So when I saw the little reticle, I'm like trying to control it with the right stick, which just doesn't exist on a Super Nintendo. And I was trying to control that separate from my guy, and then it kind of took me a bit. I was just like, oh, okay. And then I was trying to actually shoot the gun with the top triggers, because of course, in most games you would shoot a gun with a top trigger. So it was kind of funny, like all the modern game things that were like kind of defaulting in my head, and then I kind of had to like work back and really like learn to control. It's super hard. Even like dodging, I was just like, well, maybe the other trigger makes me roll, but it's like, no, you only roll if you're shooting, and then you hit like what would be the equivalent of the B button, or it is still the B button on the Switch, the down arrow, I guess.
That's crazy though. You don't think about that stuff until you're in it, where how like far control scheme has come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes me think of I don't remember, Randy, if you were there at the convention. We were playing like in somebody's hotel room at one point, GoldenEye on an actual N64.
Ooh.
No, I wasn't there for that, but I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where everybody gets it out, you think it's a good party game, and then you start sitting down to play it, and after about 5 minutes you're like, wow, man, shooters have come a long way.
Yeah. When you played GoldenEye back in the day, did you always use the default control scheme?
I probably did, out of lack of knowledge of anything else.
Okay. You know what's funny is when it came out, and this is busting out my N64 knowledge. It came out right about the same time as Turok on the N64.
You're going where I'm going.
And I liked the Turok controls better than I liked the GoldenEye controls better. So we always changed it. So my brother and I think even my cousin, who was always our third in our multiplayer sessions, we always changed it to Turok controls on that.
Yep.
What was that called?
It was kind of like twin stick controls without a second stick.
Huh.
So you map all
right.
I forget what the control scheme, what it's called or what it is, but you're mapping your movement to the yellow C buttons.
Yeah, on the right.
And your aim is with the stick.
Oh, right. So much more intuitive as far as we're concerned now.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, but the default movement was moving left and right was with the left stick, but also looking up and down, but not moving.
Yeah, and you like moved your reticle around the screen.
Right. It was strange. The fact that they had it like split like that. It was very strange.
Yeah,
But,
and I was the only one out of my friends that would do that. So whenever we would play 4-player, and like if I would lose and we would pass it around, when they got my controller and they started to play, they would get so mad, and they'd have to back out into the options and be like, Phil, you and your controls. They would always get so mad.
I remember that. I remember that. Not with you, but I remember going through that same scenario.
Yeah, they would be so mad. Yeah, and it's like, no, that's why I usually win, because I can actually aim at you guys.
While moving.
Yeah.
That's true. That's funny.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
But that's it for Wild Guns. Super cool game. If you, I guess, are of a certain age and you're not a child, don't play with your kids because they very well won't care about it. But
yeah,
I think it's cool. It's super hard. It looks like it's a game that's probably like 5 or 6 stages, and if you're good, you could blow through it like in 20 minutes. But I'm terrible, so it'll take me some time to get good at it. But
that's funny. For my game this week with the family, my wife has actually been hammering 2 Point Hospital on my computer. Like as soon as the kids go to bed, she boots me off my computer and plays that for a couple of hours before she goes to bed. Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
2 Point Hospital. It's like a hospital managing
sim. He wasn't here last week.
Oh, this is okay. Sorry,
super good game. But
catch me up.
That's not what we're going to talk about. That I was hoping that
I'll watch the tapes later. It's fine.
There you go. And my son is also the same way. Like right now, he's still playing the same thing. He's still playing the same Lego games that he was playing before. And when he gets a chance, he'll try to hop on 2 Point Hospital as well. So I'm rolling back to a game that he and I played, and he was obsessed with over the summer, and that's Rayman Legends.
He likes that?
Very good.
Loved that game.
Oh, okay.
Loved it. Because it's a side-scrolling action game, and you can play 4-player cooperative all at the same time, all on the same screen. So it's this fast-paced running, jumping on bad guys, floating through the air, punching bad guys in the face as you're going super fast kind of gameplay. And it has beautiful art and this wonderful orchestral soundtrack. And at the end of each stage, at the end of each level, there's several stages per level. The final stage or the final level, I'm getting my own terminology screwed up. So basically the final painting that you jump into is always a cover of a song. So they have a mariachi band cover of Eye of the Tiger, and there were God, I can't remember some of the other songs. But it's just such a great and fun and colorful, action platformer that Ubisoft pumped out.
What are you playing that on?
We played it on PC together. So I hooked in an Xbox One controller and an Xbox 360 controller, and it gave us no problems. Yeah, it was just pick up and play. He loved literally everything about it, except for I will say this, it was great to sit down and play with him, but not all stages in that game are developed properly for multiplayer on the screen at the same time. It's almost like a survival of the fittest on some levels, because
I wonder if that's Wii U stuff happening where they had to switch things.
You think so?
I mean, it's very possible. I remember there was specific gamepad stuff for that, because that game was made for Wii U. It
was, and apparently of all the platforms that it was on, it sold the best on the Wii U for the time. And then I guess they also re-released it for PS4, Xbox One, and then officially a year ago they put it on the Switch. Which, had I known that, I probably would have picked it up on the Switch, because I love this game, and I think it's a great couch co-op game.
I saw it for $20 at GameStop, and I was kind of tempted.
Yeah, it's a steal for $20. Totally think it's worth it.
No, absolutely. I've played some of the previous ones in the series, and it's just solid platforming. It's good art, very good theming. Yeah,
the art that Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends is, they're both pretty much the same. They both use that. I'm trying to think of the
Ubi art engine.
Yes, that's it. The Ubi art engine. And but everything about Origins that was good, they improved upon in Rayman Legends. And in fact, there's a good number of Origins levels that you can actually play in Legends. You can kind of unlock them as secret levels. So
cool.
If you ever have the opportunity to be like, which one should I get, Origins or Legends? Legends, hands down, is the better one to go with.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, we went through it, and like I said, there's just some levels that aren't made for 2 players, because it's twitch reflexes. And, one wrong move and you got to start the level kind of over again. Sort of Super Meat Boy-ish.
Yeah. I remember playing I played the demo on Wii U, I think, when that came out, and I feel like would the music stages be hard? I feel like they would be hard, but multiplayer, no?
They are. Those are the ones that like wrong moves and you're done, kind of thing.
Okay.
So what will happen is if one person dies, say he fell off the screen or fell into a pit, he would be put into a bubble, and he would float back up, and like if he floated in front of me, I could punch him and he would come back out of the bubble, and we can kind of keep running.
So like new Super Mario style.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But there are some levels where it was just like, nope, you're in the bubble. I'm sorry. If we want to finish this, I have to leave you in the bubble, because one wrong move on my behalf means that the level's over too.
Is it like Mario where you can go in the bubble at will?
No.
Okay.
You cannot go in the bubble.
Yeah, because that becomes a strategy at a certain point with those new Super Mario Brothers games.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For sure.
You're like, oh yeah, we're at this point, everybody's gonna bubble except one, and whoever's gonna carry the team.
Yeah, there would be.
Wow.
Oh god, go in the bubble. I probably screamed 500 times when my wife and I played through the original Super Mario Wii.
Actually, they just had the direct where they announced that they're porting that to the Switch.
Yeah.
And when I said something to my wife about it, she was like, "Oh, that's the one with the bubble."
Yeah.
Literally the first thing she said.
While I was looking up the information about this game, I was kind of intrigued because I read that the development of Rayman Legends was pushed back because of the financial failure of Zombie U that came out on the Wii U.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was like, oh, that was funny. And I remember, not to get too much on a sidetrack, but I remember that Zombie U game and how much Wii U owners were like, "This is the best zombie game ever." And then I got a chance to play it, and I was like, no, you're just starving for good games on that system, aren't you?
Well, you played like the PC version, right?
I did, yeah, yep.
So I think that's another case. And I'm not really defending Zombie U all the way, because I actually do have that game myself, and I did not get very far. It was pretty frustrating. But I think that's another game where it was maybe missing a little something, not having that gamepad.
Yeah, maybe.
Because going into the...
You mean like the touch screen pad kind of thing?
Yeah. Because that was kind of one of the cool things that was... I don't know how they handled it on PC, but one of the things that was like unique and it made it feel a little more like intense was like you would have to go into that pack and look down at your screen while everything's going on still on the TV screen. So how did they handle that stuff on the PC version?
I don't remember. It's been so long that I played it.
So, I mean, it's very possible that, it wasn't the best game, but it's also possible that it was like maybe missing a little something in that port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
But, yeah.
Well, to bring it all back around again, apparently Rayman Legends didn't sell that well either, despite being like this critical, smash hit. And all the fans really seemed to like it. It just never got the traction that I think it deserved. So I don't mind when I see it getting ported over to all of these places.
Yeah,
it's like, yep, that's a good game. Just put it wherever.
Yeah.
They made their money with that one. It's on everything.
Yeah. I have no problems with that. It's a great game. Cool.
Yeah.
Want to take a quick break? We'll come back and talk about the games that we're playing by ourselves.
Sure.
Love it.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a couple minutes. All right, we're back. We are going to be chatting about the games that we are playing by ourselves in what little free time that we've got. Ryan, take it away. What are you playing?
You got it. Well, yes, work is busy instead of child's so far, so that leaves me as well with little time. But what little time I've had, I've been carving out for a title that I was anxiously awaiting to release on the Nintendo Switch, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate.
Cool. Now, last time you were on
here last,
last time you were here, you were doing Monster Hunter World, right?
Yeah, and I'm probably going to be hopping back and forth. I don't currently have any friends playing Generations Ultimate, while I do have friends, even one friend who just bought World, who I'm still going to be trying to play with on the Xbox One. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is a bit tougher of a cookie to crack. It's definitely a little more, World was a very forward-thinking game. They did a lot of quality of life improvements.
Yeah.
They mainstreamed it a little bit, which is great. It widened up the game to be open for a much larger audience. Generations Ultimate is sort of an odd naming scheme, but the way that they do their games traditionally is they have, like the last one was Monster Hunter 4, and that has like several different modes, I guess you would call it, but it's all part of the storyline. So it goes from low rank, which is a like sort of a tutorial story that teaches you the basic mechanics, and then there's high rank, which is like, you know, pretty difficult. It's probably about a normal difficulty for the game as far as it's concerned. And then Monster Hunter 4 ended with high rank, and then there was some extra stuff that was like end game. But then they would come out with a second iteration maybe a year and a half later that was Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, that has a harder mode still on it called G rank. It's, you know, very Japanese style of game, you know, mechanics and game release. To have this like extra super hard mode at the end. So Generations Ultimate is the follow-up to the 3DS title from, I guess it's almost 2 years ago at this point, which I played on the 3DS. They actually do have a character transfer system, and I didn't get to test that out.
You can pull your character from 3DS to Switch?
Yeah, and I didn't get to test that out, and I probably will, but I kind of wanted to punish myself a little bit.
I know what you mean.
You know?
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to start games like that, like completely, you know, from zero.
Exactly. Well, and I went the extra mile here. In every previous Monster Hunter game, aside from my very first, I've found in my first game the weapon that I was most comfortable with. For those of you not familiar with the series, the gameplay varies wildly depending on which of now 16 weapons you pick to play with. Like the classic one that's like on the box art is called the Great Sword, and it's literally like Cloud Strife sized sword that you sling over your arm and you know, very slowly hack away at giant animals.
Yeah, you're whipping around a piece of a building at animals, right?
Basically, right. Actually, one of the ones in Monster Hunter World that is it was actually a fan creation, but I think it was just begging to be made. It's a sword that actually has a rocket on the back of it that thrusts it forward. It's pretty awesome. When you do like your charge up on your swing, the rocket like powers up and you can see the like fins opening up and then it shoots. It's pretty good.
Cool. That's awesome. So when did this come out again on Switch?
So on Switch, it was middle of last month. So it was like the week I closed on the house. So I didn't have any time to play that week. But then I ended up starting to play next week, and I was playing like an hour here and an hour there.
Right.
Oh, and my point of punishing myself was I've always played the same weapon, and so I like resigned myself to learn a new weapon with this game. So my old weapon of choice was the hunting horn, which is a like blunt weapon that also plays music that you cast as spells to buff your teammates, which I always thought was cool.
It blows my mind that you've never done a Dark Souls game before, and I've never given a Monster Hunter game a chance before, because it seems like the two series have so much overlap, it's not even funny.
That's all I've ever heard, actually, about them. And I own the Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition, and I just have yet to jump through the hoops. I've heard there's some things you have to patch to make it really playable on PC.
Yeah, and they actually just re-released it as like the Dark Souls whatever edition.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the weapon that I'm trying now is a newer one that actually was debuted in Monster Hunter 4 called the Charge Blade. And all of these weapons, as I mentioned briefly, and as I'll mention more in depth here, have like their own mechanics. So the mechanic with the Charge Blade is it looks like a sword and shield, but then as you attack with it, the sword has a little file in it that starts to glow yellow and then glow red. And there's a button combo that you can push where you sheathe your sword into your axe, into your shield to turn it into a giant axe. And when you switch into that, the energy that was in your sword can then be discharged in the axe mode. So it's kind of interesting. It's like a back and forth switching of play styles where the sword and shield is pretty quick and light on your feet, and you can block with the shield. But then in the axe mode, you swing a lot slower, but the discharge is like either an elemental discharge or what they call impact discharge, which is just kind of a pure damage burst. And you can actually crank out some really serious burst damage. if you have the monster stunned, where it's in like one place for more than 3 or 5 seconds, you can do like this ultimate emptying of all of the energy in the sword, and it does like the equivalent of 10 or 15 hits in one giant burst.
Is the Switch version more friendly to newcomers, or is this like for
it's hard to say. I would say it's definitely back to the old way of Monster Hunter in that there is no tutorial.
Oh, really?
I mean, you start the game up, and there's no voice acting. It's all just sort of grunts with text, like again, like a JRPG style game.
Yeah.
And there are tutorial missions. There's like weapon training missions, but you're not required to play them. When you're dropped into the first town, it just says, well, here's a quest. And sort of the way that they do the tutorial in it is you don't fight a quote-unquote large monster like one of the titular monsters of Monster Hunter until maybe 6 quests in. Up until then, you're doing like gather these mushrooms, which, because a large portion of Monster Hunter used to be, and still is to some degree, that you're gathering resources and that you're fabricating most of what you're using. Even like you're making your own potions, you're making your own weapons, obviously, and armor. You're harvesting your own whetstones, which you have to use a whetstone to sharpen your weapon. Otherwise, its efficiency will degrade over the course of a hunt. So like a lot of that, it just pushes you into these gathering quests to kind of like figure it out. Which, when I was a younger man playing around in like my first game was Monster Hunter Tri, which was the third game in the series. I figured it out over the course of like my first 20 hours of gameplay.
I don't think I'd ever be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
See, that's
Right.
scaring me away from it right now.
Well, but see, the thing that I always say, actually, this was how I got a very good friend of mine to be really into the series, is I said, I'll be your Sherpa. I'll take you through. And then this is the good thing, is that in these games, and it continues in Generations Ultimate, you can multiplayer from the get-go. You can hop into a multiplayer match for your first hunt, and there are some that you have to do by yourself because there's different single-player missions and multiplayer missions, but if you wanted to, your first 5 hours of gameplay could be with someone else teaching you the ropes, which I think it's a really interesting multiplayer experience to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my buddy I trained, and I trained, gosh, that's such a weird thing to say, but that's kind of what it was. I like showed him how the game worked and, helped him pick a weapon. And this was on 3DS, so we were like sitting next to each other on my couch. And he played around with a few weapons, and then after we had played maybe, 3 or 4 hours together, he went off and using that, found a weapon that he liked, got good enough at the weapon, and then we would meet up online at a later point. But yeah, it definitely can be a little intimidating. And Generations Ultimate, actually, in general, does not have the strongest storyline. Basically, it's supposed to be like a nostalgia trip for people who've been playing Monster Hunter since the beginning, because it focuses on 4 different home hubs from 4 previous games. Yeah. So the like sort of joke / plot of the game is that you're trying to drum up tourism for each of these 4 cities by helping them defend the town from various monster invasions.
That's a deep plot right there.
It's a thing. Yeah. I mean, like you said with Dark Souls, the thing that people love Dark Souls for is the mechanics, right?
Sure, yeah. And then, of course, there's those people who really dive into the lore because they
Sure.
read literally every little, nook and cranny and item in the game to piece what they can together.
Right. And by the same token, I think that's what these style of Monster Hunter, the older style of Monster Hunter games are.
Nah.
You're in it for the, like, weirdly, like, the athletic trial or, like, the pure challenge of walking into this, like, giant dragon and, like, taking it out with a set of bagpipes. Because that's what I used to do. And, some people do it whilst literally not getting hit once, which is just really impressive to me.
Yeah. I've seen people doing fights like that. You'll see it for like even Dark Souls 2, where they'll be like, defeating some boss using a drum set from Rock Band or something like that, or
Yeah. Oh no, I meant literally in the game. He's swinging around bagpipes. That's the intro.
Oh, I know. That's just what made me think of it, was like somebody beating Dark Souls games with like just a drum set from Rock Band. Cool.
The stunt in the Monster Hunter series has always been to defeat like some of the later end game G rank guys without any armor on, because the armor is where you get they call them armor skills, but it's basically that's how you add buffs and other abilities to your character, is by stacking armor together that has the same skill affinities. So if you give yourself no armor, you're guaranteeing that even if the monster looks at you funny, you die, and also you have no additional abilities to help you. It's just your pure like rolling and dodging skills and your sword.
One day I'll play it.
They always interest me, and I haven't played them either.
Yeah,
they're a grind, but I think with a good friend, they can be a really fun time if you have the time to kill.
Yeah, so the idea of sinking like 20 hours into a game to finally figure it out is really just, whew.
Yeah. I'm with you, Phil, because like right now I'm at the phase where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sneak away, I'm gonna play a game for 10 minutes, and the moment I sit down and start up the game, the kids start screaming. Or I sit down and I try to turn on the game and I have to download an update, and it's like, well, I guess I'm not playing this game.
Yeah. Well, there's no updating, thankfully, because since Generations was out for a while, all the DLC, they run a bunch of free DLC, but that's all pretty much happened by now. I will say too, by now, obviously I'm trying to calculate in my head quickly. I have over 500 hours in the series played.
Oh my gosh.
Easily closer to 1,000 probably.
Wow.
But that's spanning over 4 or 5 games.
Right.
At this point, to hop in and play a mission is 15 or 20 minutes. So the nice thing about the Switch is that you can just wake it up, play a mission, and then put it back to sleep if that's what you need.
Right.
So I love the system because that's the beauty of the Switch and the 3DS. Frankly, it was the same with the 3DS.
Right. Just close the lid.
Yeah, and it pauses. It's great. It just suspends.
Yeah, my days of that are gone. My Switch is no longer my Switch. It's now my kid's Switch. My wife was even laughing at me the other day. I was like, I would really want to try that Octopath Traveler game. She was like, that's not your Switch anymore, honey. I was like, I know, you're right. And I said it would be stupid if I wanted another Switch, because it's so much money for just to play a couple of games,
No, but then you could do the stupid thing that they do in the advertisement for Super Mario Party, and you push them together.
Get out of here! No.
Yeah.
Yup.
I'll buy another Switch if they ever make a Switch Go that is purely mobile, or a Switch Home,
a Switch Pro.
Or a Switch Pro, whatever that is, that just stays at home.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, I'll take it over. I'm going to talk about my game this week. Ryan, thanks for telling us about Monster Hunter Switch.
Oh, you got it. I'll tell the word anytime you need.
It's like the gospel.
It is the gospel of GOG.
I dug deep into my Steam backlog because I'm into this, trying to not buy stuff thing. And I bought, or I didn't buy, a long time ago, I bought Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Is that 2 or 1?
This is the
new ones.
This is the second of the new ones.
Okay.
I don't know what number it actually is in the series. Maybe 4? I don't know.
I was thinking new ones.
Yeah, it's the second one of the new ones. And it came out in 2016, August of 2016, and I didn't get it until much, much later. I got it on super sale, on some Steam sale, and I remember being so excited to play it, and I couldn't because, this was right around the time when, we were dealing with the baby and such, and I was like, as soon as things slow down, I'm going to play this game. And the first chance that I had to play it after I bought it on crazy super sale, I couldn't stand it. The intro level, I really couldn't stand it. And so, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot again. I'm reading all these reviews. This thing's getting 9s in a ton of places. And so I gave it a shot again, and I got past that intro level. And after the intro level, the game kind of slows down a bit, and it takes a closer tone to what the previous game was. And
was the first level super action packed or something?
Yes, exactly. Okay. It was super action packed, and I was like, this doesn't feel right at all. Because Deus Ex is all about sneaking around and finding different ways to get into a building if you want to get into a building at all, and like rooting through different environments to find out different story elements, because you could play the game. It's an action role-playing first-person stealth game.
Yeah.
And you can get the story that you pick. It's sort of a choose your own adventure kind of style game.
Cool.
But you'll get so much more out of it if you just take your time and you read the information that you find, because you might find out that somebody who is your friend and they act as your friend in the main storyline, that they might actually be duplicitous based on the emails that they're sending to other people on their computers and such. So once the game finally slowed down, I found that it was fun. I was sneaky. I probably spent like one evening just like an hour and a half reading other people's emails.
Oh wow!
Which I was like, this is hilarious.
I
avoid email from work all day long just to read other people's emails in a video game.
Fake
at the end
emails,
of the day. Yeah. But I was impressed at how much, like, I could just sneak around literally everywhere. There were like vents in certain places and like secret entrances, or just talking your way through certain scenarios. It's a really well thought out experience, but at the same time, it's super short. The story itself it doesn't really go anywhere, and they touch on a lot of really cool elements in the game. Like it has this augmented humans versus non-augmented humans, and there's this sort of I don't know. There's like a division of the people within the city of Prague, and so like since you're an augmented human, the cops stop you regularly and they ask you for your papers, and the first time I was like, oh, that was kind of interesting, but it literally happens every time you try to go to like the train station, and you're like, okay, all right, now I'm starting to feel something here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very good, but not amazing. I would recommend waiting again. If you see it on like a super sale, maybe pick it up and see if it's your speed. If not, Steam has a great return policy.
I don't think I've ever used the Steam return policy, actually, now that I'm thinking of it.
You know what? You will.
Yeah?
Oh,
all right.
You will.
Oh man.
Yeah, you will.
I think I'm too dedicated to the game. I take it as a point of shame if I bought something that was bad.
Like it's
we
your
all
fault.
buy something bad. We all buy something bad.
That's true.
Yeah. But again, I'm glad that I gave it a second shot. Has a really good soundtrack, good voice acting. It's the first Deus Ex, the first new Deus Ex game was entirely too yellow. Everything in the game was yellow. This gladly opens up the color palette. The environments open up pretty wide. I kind of went down this kick because of the Cyberpunk trailer, and I was like, I really want to play something cyberpunky.
Yeah.
And so I gave Deus Ex Mankind Divided a try again. I liked it. Not my favorite game of all time, but worth the $10 or whatever I paid for it.
Nice.
Totally.
Yeah. Speaking of games that we buy that we don't like,
That was a great segue. I was thinking the same one.
Solid segue.
I'm gonna slide the puck over to Phil.
Sure. Yeah, so speaking of those types of games, after last episode where I told the story of Wrath of the Black Manta, I actually got a tweet from someone, Pinball Jake, and he said Wrath of the Black Manta is an underappreciated classic. He may have said classic. I don't have the tweet in front of me. And I thought, all right, I'll give it another shot, right? So,
okay.
I put Wrath of the Black Manta on because, of course, I got a copy right behind me, even though I said all those things about it. But, so, my verdict is it's not as terrible as I thought, but it's still pretty terrible.
Game.
Yeah, it's still pretty terrible. Yeah.
Ringing endorsement.
Yeah. It was it was a gigantic Shinobi ripoff.
Yeah.
Without having the Shinobi name on it.
Oh, okay.
Right. And that's fair. That's actually fair because, well, I mean, the original Shinobi is on the NES through Tengen, which, isn't a real officially licensed NES game. But, so there had to be some kind of Shinobi rep on the NES. So, I think that's fair. I think So the way that the game works, like the loop, yeah, like Randy said, is that it's Shinobi, right? So you're just walking very very slowly. You fire your attack is ninja stars. There is a like a melee. If somebody's up close to you, you kind of knife them. The combat in it, it's kind of almost kind of good because it's kind of like cover based. Like a lot of guys are hiding behind boxes and they're just kind of poking their heads up, and you kind of have to try and just pop them at the right time. So almost what cover games were there then? Like Rolling Thunder, stuff like that.
Yeah, that almost sounds like a light gun game sort of thing to me.
Terminator 2 was cover based too.
Yeah, or that, I guess.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking like side scroll though. Like I'm not.
No. I mean Terminator 2 on the NES. It was a side scroller. It was a cover shooter. That was a great game, by the way.
Oh crap, was it? I remember playing it, but I don't remember being good.
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard.
I'll have to look that one up again. And then there's all these. So the game's all about like these secrets, like finding kids. It's actually it's like the game is impossible, but it's also easy. So
right.
All right. Go ahead.
So
impossible.
Like the level by level play is easy. So like you know, each level might have like 6 guys before the end boss, but those end bosses, man.
The end bosses aren't too bad. It's that final boss. Like the final boss, if you don't look up the secret on GameFAQs or back in the day, I guess Nintendo Power or whatever, you're not beating him. Like you can't. Well, I'll get there in a second. So the basic structure of the game, every single stage is basically the exact same stage. You start up above ground on the surface, you go below into like a sewer kind of area or like a warehouse area, and you come back up to the ground, and then you get to like a boss.
Right.
While you're doing that, there's a ton of doors, and you can walk into the doors. And the doors will have like a kidnapped kid inside of it. And you can't really, you can kind of get power-ups that will like, you have like a PAL meter that if you hold it, so this is a whole other thing.
It's such a weird like magic mechanic in the game.
It has a really weird magic system. So what you do is, and this was what makes the final boss even more impossible. So what you do is before each stage you kind of pick, you start I think with only 4 magic spells, but as the game goes on you earn more spells. And they're assigned to different button combinations. So if you just stand there, don't hit any buttons, and you charge B button and your little PAL meter fills up, and you let go, he'll do one kind of magic. Maybe like a shadow figure will appear above his head so you can attack up and down. If you hold B and down and release, he'll do like another kind of magic. If you're walking while you release the B button, he does another one. So there's like 4 different ones you can have at all times. And you kind of have to remember that button combination for each one. So the PAL meter is linked to those. The longer your PAL meter is, the more strong the magic is that you cast. And you get those by going through rooms, and then in the rooms you find kids, and usually the kids say the dumbest thing, because the story is that the bad guy just wants to sell drugs, and he's trying to get kids hooked on drugs. So
it was totally like the 80s scare of kidnapping and drugs, man.
Yeah, this is depressing.
Yeah, so
those were the 80s, man. Drugs and kidnapping. Those were the things everybody's afraid of. And the Cold War.
Yeah. Is like the kids for each stage are all one type of kid, so it's like maybe the one stage might be the same girl over and over again. You just keep saving the same girl. But anyway, so usually they'll tell you like where a secret is. They'll go, if you just shoot the wall down here, just shoot this wall. If you shoot it a bunch of times, secret will happen. And that's kind of like the loop. So you find the kid. You at some point you're just trained to shoot every wall that you come across. So it's like whatever. Like the hints are just stupid, right? And each time you complete a room, your health refills like all the way. So you always want to go in a room. That's really like the main reason you want to go in a room. So it's really easy to make it to a boss because you can just sit there and refill your health the whole time. And the bosses might be tricky, like Randy said. Some of them are a little trickier than others.
Yeah.
But then when you get to the final boss, there's the final kid that you have to save. He's got him hostage.
The kid is the boss?
What's that?
The kid is the boss?
No,
it's this like super stereotypical 80s slick back hair bad guy, and he's holding this little kid in front of him.
The little kid who you got to look up the ending. The boss he's really tall. He's like really so much taller than your ninja. And the kid that he's holding is the same size as the ninja. It's like this giant kid. It's like it's hilarious. But anyway, the only way to beat him is to use the ninja arts in a specific order.
Oh,
so
man.
if you don't even select the right ninja art before the stage, you don't win.
Yeah, he goes back to full health. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to turn the game off because you just can't win because you selected the wrong ninja art. I mean, I guess I didn't get a game over, so it's very possible that if you continue, you're allowed to select a ninja art again. But it doesn't matter because if you've never played this before, there's no hints. You don't know what you don't know what to pick. Yeah, and then if you screw up and you use the wrong ninja art at the wrong time, it resets the cycle, and you get hurt. So if you screw up like 3 times, you die. Like I got to the final boss. Wow. This is how hard it is. I got to the final boss with I think like 3 or 4 lives. I almost lost. I almost got a game over. I had 0 lives by the end just because, and I had the secret right in front of me. Going into the boss, I knew the exact order. I had the exact stuff because I cheated beforehand because I knew what was going to happen. And he still killed me like 3 times.
That's crazy.
And it's not even like you're having fun doing it. You know, it's not like it's a fun final boss where you're like, do it. I don't mind replaying that. You know, it's horrible.
I was sweating. Like I did not want to get a game over because it's like I want to win. I don't not want to win. But I don't want to play this game again. But I would feel compelled to play that game again if I game over there because it's actually not too long. I think it was like about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
And this is the first time I played the game since,
probably the 80s.
Yeah. I never completed it since I've definitely popped it in here and there and laughed at it or whatever. But I've never actually played it in full. Yeah, probably since it came out.
Or like 92 or whenever it came out.
Yeah, it came out 90. So
90. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So probably like 90, 91. Last time I played this game.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not the worst thing ever. It's definitely playable. I got to the end, like I said. But it is kind of hilarious. Like you can. Every stage has these red bad guys. They're wearing like red clothes, and if you can kind of like get up to them, it's kind of tricky, so you can't do it all the time. But if you can get up to them, you get them in like a headlock. Your ninja just kind of automatically does it, and he like forces information out of them, and the the dialogue's hilarious. It's just so good. And I actually I found out tonight when I was looking stuff up, 2 of the character portraits for the bad guys.
Yeah.
When you get them. They're stolen from How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I looked up the pictures and there's 2 and I'm like, "Oh my god, there they are." So they're pretty hilarious. I'm probably going to like tweet those out after the show.
I also love that it's called Wrath of the Black Manta because it was originally going to be a game with Aquaman, or at least where the final boss was going to be the Black Manta, which is one of Aquaman's like nemesis. But they were,
that's DC.
Yeah, right. It's a totally different like comic book company, so they were like they didn't get the rights to it, and they were like, I guess we'll just keep the name and make it a ninja game, or keep the name.
Yeah. Black Manta sounds like a ninja.
Game development back then sounds like it was such a cluster.
Yeah,
I would have been so good at it.
There's a handful of stages that kind of try to mix things up. So like the second stage, you do climb like a bit of like a waterfall, and you get to the top, and you have to knock a ninja. Like these flying ninjas come in, and you have to kill them real quick, and then you grab their little kite, and then you fly, and it turns into like a shooter very briefly, like like Life Force or something, or Gradius.
Yeah. But you're a gigantic kite. Yeah, I remember enormous. It was tough to dodge things in the gigantic kite.
You're huge. You take up like half the screen. So they do they do stuff like that. The final stage, you ride like an elevator, and you do like these kind of hilarious first-person things where you're throwing ninja stars forward, and the bad guys make these pretty funny faces when you hit them. So it's just it's not good, but I did have fun playing it again. So.
That's funny. Because we were talking about this before the show. I did Wrath of the Black Manta for the 25 games for my son's series, and I remember when I played it for that, I was like, "Why did I pick this? This is horrible." I was like, "I'm never doing this again. I'm never picking a bad game again for this list because I want this to be fun."
Did you complete the game for that?
Oh yeah, I think I might have footage of the final boss in that. I might.
Oh good.
Nice.
I think I'm going to rewatch that after this. Because
I'm gonna have to check it out.
I remember
I have no experience with this game actually. This one got by me. I think it's mostly because this is Nintendo, original Nintendo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I didn't ever own one as a kid, so I basically only got the hits because it was only when I was over at somebody's house.
Oh yeah, right, right. Yeah,
this
because when
didn't
you're
make
over
the
somebody
list.
else's place, why even bother with that? You got to go right into your Mario 3s and
Yep, your original Zelda.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Or even Zelda 2. Zelda 2 was a fun one.
I never played Zelda 2 as a kid. I played it as an adult. It was, it was Zelda 2.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears right into the off-topic chat. I'll kick us off. I got nothing.
Take it away.
I got nothing. My kid did his first day of first grade, so we've been going through that.
That's a thing.
We've been going through that panic. Making sure that he gets on the bus. That's a fear I didn't know that you have as a panic as a parent. You're like what if he literally just doesn't get on the bus?
Yeah.
I mean, you were there, right?
I was there, but when they get off on the bus at the end of the day, that's the hard part,
I see. Yeah,
and
that's a little more trust.
When the bus came to drop him off at the end of the day, he almost didn't get off the bus. He looked at me with this with his panicked look in his eyes, like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Get off the bus!"
Come on, bud. Go.
So that's it. Man. I got nothing else. Kid's first day of school.
That was pretty good, though. That's a pretty good thing. My everything is putting a house together again. So my off topic is all this old house 2018. We can make it a Netflix series. Let's see.
How is moving into the new place? I know you were like big into like trying to get as much automated stuff in. Are you still going down that path?
I'm working my way through, so I was going to hold off on a couple things, but I think I'm going to push through with it tomorrow. So let's see. We have multiple Amazon brand devices whose name I won't invoke.
Right, because then she's going to ask you questions.
Yeah, or like all the listeners will now all of a sudden all of their devices will wake up.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh yeah. I'm not trying to prank anybody here. So I just installed a couple. I picked up. I tried to like condense brands as much as possible. So I have a Nest thermostat, which my father and I installed. I was very excited. My dad was not confident that I would be able to do this without electrocuting myself, obviously.
A thermostat?
Or anything.
Oh, okay. Thermostats are pretty easy.
Yeah, two wires,
still
right?
wires.
2 wires, right?
There was like 6.
Mine has like 4 to 6.
Yeah. I don't remember. I know I did it before, but...
Well, because I have central air, so the air has a wire. There's like a common wire. They're all different colors. It's like a bomb diffusal. It really is.
Yeah. Maybe there were more than I remember.
Yeah. But so I did manage to get that, and then in the interest of brand condensing, picked up the Nest branded doorbell, which is called Hello. Which is probably my favorite thing so far of all of the things I've installed.
Yeah.
It has it. I don't know. A doorbell is such a silly thing to like think about being excited about.
Does it give you the video when they?
It does.
Okay,
it does.
Okay.
And it has even like a little wedge built into the mount, and it's like, if you want your doorbell to be tilted 15 degrees to the left, install this metal wedge.
Question,
so I did.
When somebody rings the doorbell, does it go through like the doorbell in the house, or does it ring your Amazon devices in the house? Does the Amazon device chime in and say somebody is at the door?
No. However, so when somebody rings the doorbell, so first of all, before someone rings the doorbell, if they were to like just step up to the front door and like be an awkward human being like I would be and not ring the doorbell immediately, it pings me on my phone and says someone's at the door, because it sees their face, because that's the technology today. It sees their face. It knows that there's a human. So then when they ring the doorbell, I get a ping. It does actually ring my doorbell chime like a normal doorbell, because you wire that in. Again, surprised I didn't electrocute myself.
What if you don't have a doorbell?
Then it will not. Although, no, additionally, I believe you can make it produce an electric chime noise if you don't have one.
I would totally do it if I could just... We have a doorbell too, but every time anybody rings it, the dog goes freaking nuts.
Well, you can make it so that it doesn't.
Oh, but what I was saying is, like, if I could have it so that somebody pushed the doorbell and it made the Amazon devices all in the house say someone is at the door, that would be great. You know, then the dog won't go crazy.
Maybe
I mean, I'll check on it. Maybe. There's all kinds of integrations. I'm sure, at the very least, if there's anything that I've learned here, it's that you can use If This Then That, the popular app. I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing. If This Then That is an app. It's a web app and like an app for your phone that basically you can tie any smart devices together by way of code that other people have written.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look that up.
It's really cool. I actually tested it out before we got the house because I've always been annoyed. I tweet something. No, well, I used to. It was that I would tweet something and it would show up on my other social media platforms as like just a link to the tweet. But what I've now hooked it up to do is my main social media now is Instagram. So if I post a picture to Instagram, If This Then That will recognize that I made a post, pull the picture and repost it to my Twitter as an actual tweet with a photo.
Oh, cool.
Instead of what the in-app does, which is just to push the text and then a link.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah, and so it's like little like work shortening things like that. So I bet you there's a way to program in a complication where when the doorbell is rung and it notices, you know, or whatever, and that signal gets sent, that it pings the Amazon devices and has them say something.
Interesting.
Right.
That's
But in
cool.
any case, when somebody rings the bell, it's always recording, but it will save a clip, and it will notify you on your phone, which then you can talk to them through your phone, which is pretty baller. You can also hit shortcuts if you're like, actually the other day this happened, I was in a meeting and somebody rang my doorbell and it was clearly a solicitor. So I just clicked the shortcut button, which was, no one's available to answer the door right now. Thank you. And it just tells them that. And then they just walked away.
Wow.
So it's pretty nifty. I got it on sale. So it really actually wasn't even that exorbitantly expensive. So I have that. I have a few. I'm going with Belkin for all of my light switch needs. So I'm going to be installing some Belkin smart light switches tomorrow.
Wow. Going all out.
Yeah, I'm trying to. You know, I like it. I like a lot of this stuff because it is a fun experiment and a fun thing to like play with at the house, but it also is sort of in defense of saving money eventually. Because, you know, the Nest I can actually notice, it knows when people are walking by the thermostat or not, and so it'll shut off or like tone down how much it's cooling or heating the house to, you know, fit that.
Yeah.
So ideally, they say that it pays for itself in the first 2 years.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So I find a lot of that stuff interesting. Also, I like being able to control things from my phone. You know, like if I know I'm going to be getting home from work early, I can bump the thermostat to where I want it to be so that it'll be ready by the time I get home. You know, stuff like that. It's convenience, but it's interesting.
Welcome to the future.
For serious, though.
Phil, what about you, man?
Yep.
What's your off topics?
So my wife is like, I guess already in the Halloween spirit, even though we're like halfway through September.
Get out of here.
I know, it's crazy. So she already started pulling some decorations out and stuff.
Nice.
And then I guess that kind of got me by default. And for the last few years, I've been wanting to get some vintage Halloween stuff that I can put out every year. And today I finally committed to the garbage that I ordered.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So I purposely sought out. You guys have to remember these. They're just these cutouts. They're just these monster cutouts of like faces. It's like a Dracula face and a werewolf face and like a Grim Reaper. Do you remember them?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I do.
They were
bells?
just like the super thick, almost like cardboard cutouts of their faces.
Probably not even that thick, were they? I don't know. But
They
I just
were
remember
moderately thick.
everybody had them when we were, well, at least a lot of people around me had them when I was growing up. I felt like they were a very common decoration. My school had them. I remember them being up in my grade school, and I remember them being up in people's houses. And I thought I gotta get these. So I found a seller on eBay that was selling them, plus a couple of other classic ones that I recognize that are just ridiculous, just like this witch and like a skeleton looking out a window.
Sure.
So I was like, this is great. And then the other piece of junk that I got to go with my Halloween decorations are the McDonald's Happy Meal pals. Do you remember them?
No,
Yes.
I don't remember those.
Dude, you don't remember them, Randy?
No.
Oh my God! It's like the pumpkin. Well, I think they're called McPumpkins. It's like the pumpkin, the little pails. That's you would get your Happy Meal. Yeah, and it would be like there was a pumpkin one, there was a ghost, a witch.
Yep.
So I ordered a set of 3 of those.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, so I got my classic Halloween junk. It's on the way.
All you need now, I don't know if you
stoked.
guys remember, there was it was either a bat or a ghost, and it was like in a large cone of plastic with like fabric over it, and it was a motion sensor, and it made the most heinous noise when you would like walk by it, and people would hang them above their doors.
That's like every decoration device now. If you just go to like Home Depot and walk by any of their Halloween
God.
stuff, everything howls and hisses and such.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
But I don't know. I can't think of the one you were talking about, Ryan.
It made it like
I'm sure
I
if
don't want to
saw
make
it.
the terrifying noise, but it made it like a few octaves higher. It was like wee.
Yeah. I love that.
You know?
Yep.
Some of them will still make that noise. It's like different things still make. That's like the Halloween noise.
That's the noise. That's
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that too. I should probably get something that makes that noise.
you gotta.
Yeah, because I do like those. Yeah. So that's all I got.
That's
I'm
pretty
just
solid.
Awesome. You
excited
know what?
about my junk.
I'm gonna throw this out there into the internets, into the internet vibe somewhere. I want somebody out there to develop LED lights that you can hang on your trees and like the front of your house, so that in Halloween time they light up orange, and then you don't even take them down. So on November 1st, you switch them over to Christmas lights, or holiday lights. And then you know what? When they're done with that, you leave them up all summer, and then just in the summertime, you switch them over to white colors, and then you have like nice white light up stuff outside.
That totally exists. That totally exists.
Do they really?
I mean, the light strings. Yeah. Let me look this up.
Because
I'll look it up before we go.
I cannot stand putting up and taking down lights. I'm so lazy.
I mean, I don't know if they'll survive all the seasons like that, but
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
You know
know if they
what,
have
though?
RGB capabilities.
just to get from October to January, I think that's more than fair.
All right.
yeah, there's definitely a string. Yeah, you can buy strings right here. I'm looking at
Is it
them.
Corsair?
What's that?
Like LED lights for your computer.
No, I mean, no.
Sweet
they're,
RGB, 4 million colors.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. There's like you can get like well, most of them are the ones that have like the adhesive behind them. But this is just a string. This is just a string of lights. I mean, they don't look like the regular Christmas lights, but there's still a string of lights.
Right.
Somebody needs to make them that they look like regular Christmas lights, though.
I mean, hey, at
That's the
nighttime.
thing.
Randy, don't let your dreams be dreams.
I don't know. I think they would look.
Are you telling me to quit my job and start this business?
Why not both?
16 feet. 16. That's not that long.
No, that's not. 16 feet won't
So
get
they're
you
expensive.
anywhere.
So that's the
You
trick.
need
Is
at
that
least
they're
10 times
expensive.
that.
Yeah, 16 feet won't get you anywhere. I've got
So
like,
that's the
boxes of 100-foot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
of lights.
So that's the trick. It does exist. It's just there's not.
We're going to figure it out. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, somebody make it an affordable option.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Should we wrap it up?
I think
Yeah,
that about
I'm
does
good.
it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
We'll see you soon.
Good night. Yep. See you.